We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kufay and Medalef, about 7-8 lines down from the top of the Yamud, where it says Chutz mipachis shavet pruta bekeren chulu. The Mishnah says a person stole and he swore falsely, and in order for him to be able to get his kapara, which is by paying a chaimish and a asham, you first have to give back the principal, and you have to give it back directly to the nigzal. But the Mishnah said, what's if the nigzal is meichel you, and nice, so you don't have to pay back, but he was meichel you besides an amount which is less than the worth of a shavet pruta. Because it's less of the value of a shavet pruta, you don't have to give that back in order to be able to get your kapara. Oh, what Rav Papa said about this. This is all true if the item that you stole is not still here. If the physical item that you stole is still here, so even if he was meichel, and of that physical item, there's still something which is less than a shavet pruta, but nevertheless, you still, before you get your kapara, you bring your carbon. You should take this physical item that's less than a shavet pruta and return it to the owner. Why? Because even though it's less than a shavet pruta, and the Mishnah says then you don't have to give it back to get your kapara. Because we're concerned that maybe the price of this will go up, and then it will be worth a shavet pruta. And then what happens? So the Rashi explains, you bring your carbon, and you think that you brought a asha carbon asham, and it's a good carbon, and you get a kapara, but it turns out that now the price went up, and therefore you didn't give back this keren, which is worth a shavet pruta, and the carbon is not accepted. It's not a good carbon. So therefore, even less than a shavet pruta, you should give it back.
The keren is worth a pruta, or the chaimish is a pruta?
Keren. We're talking here about the keren, the actual principle of this item that you stole. There's another version that Rav Papa said actually the exact opposite. Rav Papa, it doesn't make a difference if the physical item is here or it's not here. If it's now worth less than a shavet pruta, you don't have to go and return it to its owner if it's now worth less than a shavet pruta, because we're not concerned about the price changing in the future and it'll be a shavet pruta. If it's now, it's not worth. You can go and pay the chaimish, bring a carbon, and you'll get your kapara. In connection to this, the Gemara brings another halacha regarding shavet pruta or less than a shavet pruta by gzeila b'chlal. Rave said, Gozal sholish agudois b'sholish prutais. You stole 3 bundles that are worth 3 prutais. So each one of them is worth a pruta. And then v'hozlu, the price of it went down. V'amdal shtayim, and now these 3 are only worth 2 prutas. So im hechseloi shtayim, he gave back 2 of them. So now the last bundle that he did not give back yet, because the price went down, it's not even worth a pruta. Chayiv lahachseloi acheres, but you still have to give back that 3rd bundle, because when you stole that 3rd bundle, it was worth a pruta, even though now it's not. And what it says, what the Tana says in the Mishnah, is a raya to this, because the Mishnah says, if you steal chametz, and when you steal the chametz, it has the value of whatever this chametz is worth. And then you leave it by you over Pesach, and now over Pesach, this chametz, sha'ova, all over Pesach, has no value. It's also about no. So the Mishnah says, if you still have that physical chametz in your possession, it's because there's no noticeable physical change in it, you return it to the owner as is, and you mekayim the v'heshav is akzela. Now, so the Gemara is medayik from that Mishnah. The reason why you could return it as is, even though it has no value, is because this item, this chametz itself that you stole, you still have. But if you don't have the chametz itself that you stole with you, even though now this chametz after Pesach has no value, but you're going to have to give back, since when you stole it, it had value. So you're going to have to pay the value of whatever it was worth when you stole it. So therefore, hachanami here as well, regarding these 3 bundles, each one of the bundles was worth a pruta when you stole it. So here as well, now this one bundle that you didn't return yet does not have a value of a pruta anymore. But since when you stole it, that bundle was worth a pruta, so you have to give back that bundle as well. You can't say it's less than a pruta, and less than a pruta, I don't have to give back. No, you have to give back that pruta, that's less than a pruta as well. But now there's another case that Rav asked a shaila about. This is a different kind of case. Gazal shtei agudois bepruta. You stole 2 bundles, and the value of both of these bundles together is only 1 pruta. And the hechsel lo yachas man, and you gave back 1 of them. What's going to be the din over here? So at the time when you stole it, each bundle in itself was only worth a half a pruta. Together they were worth 1 pruta, and now you gave back 1 of them. So what's the halacha here? Do I say mi amrinan hashte leke gezela? Now that you gave back, like the Bach has leke gezela gabe, so you don't have a gezela of a pruta by you. When you stole it, it was only both together that are worth a pruta. So when you gave back one of them, so now you don't have a shava pruta of this gezela anymore by you. Or I could say, the Gemara, just to clarify, Taisus explains this. The Gemara here is discussing the negate to the mitzvah. Were you mekayim that mitzvah of returning it? Obviously, it's not yours to keep b'chlal. The isser of stealing is even stealing less than a shava pruta. But the question is regarding the mitzvah of Eishavis Agzela. When you return and now all that's left by you is less than a shava pruta, did you fulfill the mitzvah of Eishavis Agzela? So over here, since you don't have by you a shava pruta anymore, so therefore the mitzvah is fulfilled already. Or this gzela, the two bundles together are worth a shava pruta, so you have to return them both in order to fulfill the mitzvah. So then Rav himself resolved this question. Gzela enkan, there is no gzela here. You don't have a shava pruta anymore by you. Hashava enkan, but you didn't return it either. There's no hashava here. So the Gemara explains what did he mean to answer with this? If you're saying that now that you returned one of these bundles, so therefore you don't have a gzela anymore of a shava pruta, shouldn't that mean hashava yeshkan, that the mitzvah you returned, you returned enough to be mekayim the mitzvah, because after you return, you don't have a gzela of a shava pruta. The mitzvah of returning is that you shouldn't have a shava pruta in your possession. So now you don't have a shava pruta. So hashava yeshkan. So what did he?
You should return the shava.
So it's the Gemara is saying, if you're saying gezela enkan, the mitzvah is v'heishavis gzela asher gazal. But if you're saying gezela enkan, so then that should mean that the hashav is enough. So the Gemara says, no, they're actually not dependent on each other. Hachi ka'amar, this is what Rava meant to say. Even though there is no gzela anymore of a shava pruta in your possession, but nevertheless, on the other hand, mitzvah hashava enkan, the mitzvah of hashava you also don't have, because the mitzvah of hashava is to return what you stole lechatchila, which was a shava pruta. Lechatchila, the two bundles together were a shava pruta, so that's what the mitzvah is, to return both of them together, which are a shava pruta. So even though now when you return half, so there is no gzela left in your possession, but the mitzvah you also don't have. Now here the Gemara is going to bring other statements and ibayis of Rava that are sort of similar to this kind of shaila that Rava asked there. Rava said,
you can say I'm before also, even though both of them are drei Brutas, and geblieben one, it should be also a shava inkan, no?
No, but there's a different thing.
Yeah?
No, it's not the same case over there, because over there you go according to the way it was b'shas gzela. The difference between these two cases is, in the previous case, b'shas gzela, this bundle was worth a pruta. Right. The price went down, the price changed. Over here we're not talking about any price change. B'shas gzela, this one bundle was only worth a half a pruta. And you gave back one of those bundles, and now you're left with one bundle which is less than a pruta. So it's a different kind of case. Rava said regarding a different case. Harei Yomru, the halacha is, this is talking about a nazir. A nazir, after the 30 days, for example, of Naziris, he has to shave all his hair off, and also a nazir that became tamei, and then afterwards he has to shave his hair. So nazir shegilach, a nazir that was fulfilled the mitzvah to shave all his hair, v'shir shtei sidus, but he left over 2 hairs that are not shaved. Lo yasa v'lo klum. He hasn't fulfilled his mitzvah. The shaving has to be that there shouldn't be 2 hairs left. Boy Rava, so now in connection to this halacha, but Rava asked the following: Gilach achas. If he shaved all his hair and he left over 2, but then he shaved off one of those hairs that were left, and then v'noshra achas, and then another hair fell out. Mahu, what's the halacha here? Was he mekayim his mitzvah of shaving all the hairs on his head or not? He only shaved 1 hair, and then the other one fell out on his own, so he didn't shave those 2 hairs. So Rav Achim says to Ravina, this can't be the shaila that Rav is asking. Why? Nazir shegilach achas kami bayale. Is Rav asking a shaila that would be, for example, when a person is shaving the hairs on his head as a nazir, and he's shaving 1 hair, he's cutting 1 hair at a time, would he have any shaila about this? Meaning, if the person has all the hairs on his head, and he shaves 1 hair at a time, 1 hair, another hair, until he comes all the way to the end, where there's 2 hairs left, and he continues, and he shaves 1 more hair, and now there's just 1 hair left over. So for sure he was mekayim his mitzvah of shaving the hairs on his head. As long as there's no 2 hairs left over, he's mekayim his mitzvah. So if he shaved all the hairs, and then there was 2 left over, and he went and shaved another hair, and now there's just 1 more left over, so he was mekayim his mitzvah of giluach. Why not? What's missing over here? That's not the Shaila of Rava. Amalei, so Ravina explained, Lo tzriche. So the Shaila of Rava was in the following case: Kagoin shenoshar achas. After this person shaved the hairs on his head, and now there was 2 hairs left over. One of those hairs fell out. So he didn't. So the 2 hairs that were left there. So he didn't fulfill his mitzvah yet. Now his mitzvah is to shave those 2 hairs. But what happened is, before he had a chance to fulfill his mitzvah to shave those 2 hairs, noshar achas mehen, one of those hairs fell out, and then the gilach achas, and he only shaved 1 hair, the one last hair that was left. So now the question is, mi amrina, do I say hashte mias halakaseir? Now, after he shaves that last hair, so shear, in our Gemara it says the word shear, others are going to say seir. Now, in the end, you see that there's no hair now. Even though he's not the one that shaved both of these hairs, 1 hair fell out by itself and he shaved the last hair, but because he shaved the last hair, so therefore now there's no hairs left, so he's mekayim his mitzvah by shaving that 1 last hair. Or no, halav giluachu. He's not mekayim the mitzvah of shaving the hairs on his head, because the meikare hashir shtei sidus. When he shaved the hairs on his head, he left over 2 hairs. So then he wasn't mekayim the mitzvah. And now ki gilach, when he wants to complete that, actually do the mitzvah and shave those 2 hairs that are left over, loyhave beisidus. Now there are no 2 hairs to cut off anymore, because now 1 of the hairs fell out already before he had a chance to do the mitzvah to cut off those 2 hairs. The question is, does he do his mitzvah of giluach in such a way when 1 hair then fell out on its own? So this is the Shaila of Rava. And then Hada Pashta, Rava himself resolved this and answered, Seir enkan, he has no hairs now, and giluach enkan, but there's no mitzvah of giluach as well. Okay, so the Gemara again explains this expression over here. It sounds like he's saying both together. One is a result of the other. Seir enkan, if you're saying that now he has no hairs, so then giluach yeshkan. Shouldn't that mean that would be a reason to say that there is the mitzvah of giluach? Because the fact is that in the end there is no hairs, so therefore this should be a mitzvah that he shaved the hairs. So the Gemara explains, no, the way you have to read what Rava was saying was Bava Kama. This is what he meant to say. Afal pi sheseir enkan. Even though now in the end he has no hairs and he is bald, he's shaved, but mitzvah's giluach enkan. He did not do the mitzvah. When he shaved most of the hairs, he left over 2. And then later in the end, when he wanted to do the mitzvah to shave those 2, but 1 hair already fell out on his own, so it's not his action. So he doesn't have the mitzvah of giluach, even though he's completely bald now. Rava said, Hare Yomru. This is a completely different halacha, also a similar shaila that Rava asks. Chavis shenikva, a chavis, a barrel that has a hole in it. So there's a machlekes of Rashi and Tosfos what exactly the relevance of the case of this barrel is. According to Rashi, we're talking about a house. Inside a house, it's an oil. Anything that's inside, any tumah that's inside of a mace, makes anything that's on any vessel, any furniture inside becomes all tummy from the mace. Not only in the downstairs floor where this mace is, but even if there's an upstairs floor and there's an opening in between, the tumah travels to the upstairs as well and makes everything tummy downstairs and upstairs. Unless you have a barrel in between, or any barrier that's in between that covers that hole, so then the tumah doesn't travel upstairs. So let's say you had a barrel that was placed into this hole that's between the downstairs and the upstairs. So, but this barrel itself, if it's totally closed, so then the barrel itself is not going to be makabel tumah, so it could serve as a barrier between the tumah of downstairs that it shouldn't travel upstairs. But if the barrel itself has a hole in it, and the hole is large enough that the tumah that's downstairs will enter into this barrel itself. So the barrel itself now is makabel tumah. A entity that's makabel tumah cannot serve as a barrier between the downstairs and the upstairs. But it has to be a hole that's large enough that the barrel itself should be makabel tumah. That's Rashi's pshat. This pshat is more simple. We're speaking just about the barrel itself. That when the barrel is totally tightly closed, which is what's called summit puzzle, even when it has a cover and the cover is tightly closed, the contents inside don't become tumah of anything in the tumah soil, unless it has a hole. If there's a hole, then the tumah can penetrate inside. And here we're discussing about this hole that's in this barrel. So what does it say here about this hole? Chavis shenikva, a barrel that has a hole in it, v'sasmua shmarim. And that the sediments that there are there from the wine that's in the barrel itself, so that's thick enough that it creates it clogs the hole of this barrel. Hitzilua. So therefore it saves the barrel from the tumah inside the barrel or the tumah traveling to the upstairs. That's the halacha that it says in a Mishnah, as the Gemara is soon going to quote. Now, by Rava, based on this, I missed something? By Rave, so Rav asked the Shaila, Agav Chetzia. How about this barrel that has a hole that's large enough? There's a certain shear for this hole. There's different kinds of materials. There's a barrel that has a shear large enough that the tumah can penetrate through it. But Agav Chetzia. Now he blocked off half of this hole. Mahu, what's going to be the halacha? Blocking off half of it, will that stop the tumah from going in or not? Do you say once it has that hole of that size that the tumah can go through, in order to stop the tumah from going through, you have to close it off completely? Or no, as long as you close off half of it, it's good enough. Rav Yemi says to Rav Ashi, Lav Mishnah Seini Hizu, isn't this, can't you see this from this Mishnah itself in Masechta Kelim, where Rav is basing his whole Shailan? That now the Mishnah there says, Chaviz Shenikva, the barrel that has a hole in it. This is Smua Shmarim, as we quoted before, the sediments clog this hole. Hitzilua, it saves from the tumah from going through. Pakaka Bizmaira, if there's a branch of a vine, let's say, that's there at that hole, that's clogging the hole. So then the branch that's there is not enough to clog it. Achi mareach. You have to what do I have there for you? Mareach. Properly, Smear it properly to make that it should be permanent there, sealed properly. If there are two branches that are there in the hole that are clogging it, it's also not enough. You have to seal it and smear it to seal it properly from the sides, that the branches should be properly sealing it. Or between one branch and the other, that there should be no place for the tumah to penetrate. So what do you see from this Mishnah? The reason why it blocks the hole is because it was properly sealed. But if you don't properly seal it and you don't smear it properly to seal it good, so then the sealing it's not going to help. So shouldn't it be the same thing? If you seal it halfway, so that shouldn't work either. But the question is, why doesn't it work? Rav is saying that maybe even if you just seal it halfway, it's good enough. So if you have a branch that's there sealing the hole partially, shouldn't that be good enough? So we see clearly from the Mishnah that partial closure, partial clogging of the hole is not good enough. So Amri, the answer, there's no comparison to that, because Hachi Hashta Hasam over there, Iloi Mireyach Lekoi. If you don't seal the branches there to where the hole is, the branches are just going to move away. It doesn't stay there, it's just temporary. But Agav Chatzia, whereas if you seal the hole halfway, B'midi de Koi, with something which is permanent, Koi, that's something which stays there. So maybe the sealing halfway should be good enough. So therefore that remains a Shaila. Another Shaila Rav asks, and this is more related here to the halachas that we learned before, B'negei to Gzeila. Rav said, first the statement Rav says, what does the Mishnah say? Harei Omru. The Mishnah said, as we quoted before, Gosel Chametz Vaval of Pesach, you steal Chametz, and now Pesach passes, it has no value anymore. You tell the owner here, take your Chametz back as is. Now on this, boy Rav's Shaila was Nishba Alav. Regarding the halacha of a person that makes a false shvuah that I don't have this, which then he has to pay the keren, the chaimish, and the asham. So he swore falsely regarding this chametz that he has in his possession, and the actual chametz has zero value. Mahu, what's the halacha here regarding this false shvuah? Mi amrina, do I say, kiven the mignav, if this chametz that he has here now, that he has to return to the owner, if this chametz itself would get stolen from him, would get lost from the ganev himself, then by shlumile memayna, he would have to pay the value of this chametz of what it had originally when it was stolen, the real value of it. So therefore, kakafale. So now when you're swearing that you don't have this chametz, even though the actual chametz itself, which is in your possession now, that you have to return, and you're swearing falsely about it, you're swearing falsely about something that really has no value at all. But yet, if it would get lost though, it would have value, because then you would have to return real money, real value. So therefore, you're being kaifer in something that potentially has real value, that you would have to return to the owner. So it's a shvuas sheker that has a shava pruta, that you would have to then give a keren, chaimish, and asham. Or maybe I say no. Look at what it is now. Hashtami is hamonach. Right now, this chametz is right there in front of you. So you have it in your house, and va'after balmuhu, and it has the value of dust. And what you denied when you told the owner, I don't have your chametz, what did you deny? You're denying chametz that has zero value. So therefore it's not a shava pruta. So therefore you wouldn't have to pay a keren chaimish and asham. So this was the shaila of Rava. So the Gemara says on this, Milsidi Boyle Rava, this shaila that Rava has regarding this thing, that it itself, you're not actually denying and swearing falsely about something that right now it has no value. But because it could lead to something which you would have to pay for it, so this shaila that Rava has, Pshita Leila Rabba. To Rabba, this was Pashit, we see of a different din that Rabba said. Oh, my Rabba said the following halacha. Shayri ganafta, a person comes and accuses someone, you stole my ox. And he denies it. But how does he deny it? He says, Loi ganafti, I didn't steal it. So the owner says, so what is it doing by you? I see my ox in your property. You claim you didn't steal it, but I see it there. So what does the person answer? What do you mean? I did you a favor. I'm watching it for you for free. So, but the truth is though, and then it turns out that he wasn't doing him a favor. He really is a ganav. Chayiv. He's going to be chayiv for swearing falsely. He's going to be chayiv to pay the keren, the chaimish, and the asham. Why? He didn't deny it completely to say that I don't have it. It's there in his possession. All he's saying was that I have it as a shem chinam. So if he has it as a shem chinam, that means he's ready to return it to him. So why would he be chayiv for denying this? The answer is shaharei potaratzmoi migneva vaveda, because by him saying that he's only a shem chinam and he's not a ganev, he's going to pater, and he's patering himself by this. If it would get stolen or lost from him, he would be pater. He wouldn't be responsible for that, because that's the halacha of a shem chinam. If it gets stolen or lost from you, then you're not responsible for it. If he would have admitted to the fact that he's a ganev, then he would be chayiv no matter what happens to it. He has to return it. So therefore, by saying that he's only a shem chinam, even though he's ready to return it, but nevertheless, he's still patering himself to some extent if it gets lost. Similar, Shem Esachar Aniyalav. If the person says, I'm a Shem for you, and he says, I'm a Shem Esachar, you paid me for this. Now, so even in this case, Chayiv, he would be Chayiv for denying the fact that he has it Bigzela in his possession. Because by saying that he's only a Shem Esachar, then if any Einus happens to it, if it just breaks or dies, an Einus, he would be Potter for that. But if you would agree that he's a Gazlan, he would be Chayiv for an Einus. Furthermore, Shoyl Aniyalav, if this person comes and says, I borrow this from you. Now, when a person borrows, you chayiv even for an einus. But still, there's something he was trying to pater himself from. Why? Because if it dies, by a shayl, if it dies in its work, that's the kind of einus gomer that even a shayl is pater from. On the other hand, though, if you would have been a ganev, you'd be chayiv for that as well. So by you denying that you're a ganev, you try to pater yourself to some extent. So therefore, the halacha of paying keren and chaimish and everything is still high for that. That's the halacha that Rabbi said. Says the Gemara Alme. So what do I see from this? Afagav the hakaim. Even though he's not denying to say I don't have it, I never stole anything from you, and I don't have it. It's here in his possession, and he's going to return it as is in his possession. So on one hand, you could say he didn't deny the value of this itself, the thing itself, the shayr itself that he has, he's ready to return. But nevertheless, even the mignav, if it would get stolen, mamaynika kafar, then it would come out that he's denying that he owes because it got stolen, and that's not. Now he's going to say it's not my responsibility. Hashtanami mamaynika kafar. So therefore, I say even though now it did not get stolen yet, it's here in his possession, and he's ready to return it. It's considered to be that he denied the money that could come out of this. So Hanami, going back to the shaila that Rav said regarding a person that has the chametz sha'ava olav Pesach, even though it itself has no value and he could return just this itself, but nevertheless, alagav da'afar ba'almo, even though the chametz itself has the value just of dust, but kivin the mignav, if that would get stolen from him by shlumile, he would have to pay the real value of what it was at the time when he stole it, and memayna ma'alya, real money. So then hashtanami memayna kakafale. So therefore now as well, when he was denying this, he was denying something that leads to the value of real money. So therefore it's considered to be someone that's the shvua on something that has a shava pruta, and he has to pay the keren and the chaimish and so on. The Gemara now asks on this, Yosef, Rave, or Rabbe, the Ka'amar, Lahosh Maite. Rabbe said this halacha that he said before about this person that didn't totally deny this geneva. He says, yeah, I have your geneva, I have what you accuse me in my possession, but he's just saying, I have it as a shem chinam. So Rabbi said that you consider to be a kaifer and a nishbal sheka, that you have to pay a keren chaimish. So he said this halacha and esfeir of Amram l'Rava. Of Amram asked from Rava from a clear brayso that seems to say the exact opposite. The Braisa brings the pasuk that it says regarding this halacha, v'kichesh ba, he denied that he has this geneva. So the Braisa says, prat l'mayda be'ikr. This excludes a person that is admitting to the ikr, meaning that I have it in my possession. And the Braisa gives a few examples. Keitza, how does this play out? Shayri ganafta. If the owner of this ox says, you stole my shayr, v'hu aymer, and he answers, like ganafti, no, I never stole it. So the owner says, Mativa Yaslacha, but I see you have it in your barn. So what is it doing by you? So the person answers, Ata macharteli. What do you mean? You sold it to me. I didn't steal it, you sold it to me. Or Ata nasateli b'matana. You gave it to me as a gift. Or Avicha machreli. Your father sold it to me. Avicha nasli b'matana. Your father gave it to me as a gift. Or he has another excuse of what it's doing by him. Acha parasi ratz. Your ox was chasing my cow. And it chased my cow and it just ran into my property. Or this was a lost ox. I found it astray on the way, and I took it as an aveda. I didn't steal it from you. I want to do Hashavas aveda. I found it. Or then he says, and this is the exact case that Rabbi actually spoke about before. He says, "Shem Rachinam ani alav." You gave it to me as a Shem Rachinam or Shem Yisachar ani alav, or as a Shem Yisachar or Sheil ani alav. I borrowed it from you. So the kid said he's not denying that he doesn't have it at all because the owner sees it by him, but he gives all these kinds of excuses of what it's doing by him. And then it turned v'nishba. He swears falsely about this, and then he comes back and v'hoide, he admits that he lied, that really he did steal it. So the Braisa says, I would think that in such a case as well, he would be chayev to pay back the keren, the chaimish, and the asham. Talmud loymar. So we learn from the lashon of the pasuk, v'ki cheish ba. He denied this geneva and he swore falsely and he was maide. That means prat l'maide be'ikr. That excludes this kind of case where he's maide in the ikr, meaning he's maide in the fact that he has this item in his possession. In such a case, he didn't totally deny it, so therefore the halacha doesn't apply. This is a clear question on what Rabbi said, that even in such a case, the halacha of swearing falsely that you have to pay for that, the way you have to pay, still does apply. Amalei, Rabbi says to Rabbi Amram, Tedura. So there's different interpretations what this expression means. Rashi here says, Tedura means, Lashon Rashi is, Ein lev. You have no heart. Scatterbrain. That's what they have there in the art scroll. Tedura means that the person, you're not thinking straight. The answer to this question is so simple, you shouldn't have even asked me from here. Okay. Ki Tanya Hahi. When is that Braisa speaking about? When it says that the halacha of you denying does not apply because you didn't really deny this. The ka'amale helach, when the person actually has it in his possession, and he says, "Here, yeah, you're right, I have it by me, and here, take it back." So even though he denied how it got to him, because he's saying that it got to him through a sale and really he stole it, but it doesn't matter. Now that he's saying, "Hey, look here, take it back," so therefore the halacha of his of denying and shvur sheker does not apply. On the other hand, ki ka'amino, Rabbi says, when did I say that if the person says that I'm a shay mechinam, that then he will have to pay for the shvur sheker, the kaime ba'agam, when he doesn't have it in his possession now, when it's somewhere out in the agam, in a swamp or in the field, and then he's saying he's not ready to give it back right now. So since he's not giving it back right now, even if he's not totally denying that he has it, even if he's saying, yeah, Moshe Mechinam, Moshe Mesachar, but because, as the Gemara described before, this could lead to him trying to pater himself completely, so therefore the halacha of swearing falsely does apply here.
If he's saying Halach, why is he swearing? If he's saying Halach, why is he swearing?
He's just swearing, he has it in his possession, he's ready to give it back, but he's swearing that he's not a ganef. He's just swearing, he swore falsely that he's not a ganef. He's ready to give it back, but he still did swear falsely, and he's saying, I'm not a ganef. And he swore falsely that he's not a ganef. Now the Gemara goes back to the details that were mentioned in the Braisa. The Braisa says that the person admitted, and one of the cases was when the person said, Ata macharteli. He's saying, no, I didn't steal it from you, you sold it to me. And this was one of the examples that the Braisa says that he's being maided, that he has that, and this is what's called maided be'ikr. So the Gemara asks, but my maided be'ikr, ikr. How could you say that he's being maided over here in the ikr if he's saying that you sold it to me and I don't owe you a penny? I don't owe you a penny, I can keep it. This person is saying, give me back the ox, and he's saying, no, it's mine. And I paid you already for it. So he's not being maided in anything. Why is that an example of being maided be'ikr? Says the Gemara, what it means is, the case over here is the amalei leinesati l'chadami. I didn't pay you yet for it. You sold it to me, but I didn't pay you yet for it. So he's being maided that either I have to pay you for it, or I have to give you back the ox itself. And he's saying here, shkoil turach v'zil. If you want, I didn't pay you for it yet, so you can take back your ox and go. Similarly, the Gemara asks regarding the other example the Braisa gave. Atan esatili. He says, you gave it to me as a gift, or Avicha nasali, or your father gave it to me as a gift. My moide bike. So over here in this case as well, what is he being made in? He's being accused of Gzeila, and he's saying, no, it's a gift, it's mine to keep, I don't have to give you back anything. So here, similarly, the Gemara answers, the Amalei, because the Gazlan is saying, I only got it as a gift for you because of a certain favor that I would do to you in return. And I did not do that favor in return. So therefore, Shkoil Tur of Izil, you can take your ox and go. So he's ready to give it back. Another case here that the Braisa, another example the Braisa said was Toye Baderech Matzasiv. He found it, he claims that he found it as a lost item, it was just straying on the way and I took it. So Leime Ibayalach Lahadurili. So shouldn't the owner say, if you found it as an Avedis, why are you keeping it? So you should give it back to me. Why are you holding it on to you, for yourself? So the father Shmuel says, what the person is saying is, Shvua, I swear, Aveda Matzasi. I found this, it was a lost ox. I didn't recognize it. I didn't know that it belongs to you, that I should give it back to you. And that's the only reason why I kept it. But as soon as I find out that it's yours, I'm ready to give it back to you. So in all these cases, he's not a kaifer in the ikr, he's mighty that it doesn't belong to him. Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. So a little bit of a different subject here, also regarding a case where a person swears falsely and he's chayiv to bring a carbon for this. This is the case we're going to be speaking about over here, is when a person has information. He knows something, testimony, which could be relevant for a din taira. The halach is, if you know testimony, you're not allowed to withhold the edus. And if you come and swear falsely that, no, sorry, I don't have the information, I don't know any testimony about this, and then it turns out that you do know and you made it, then on this as well you have to bring a carbon osham. That's the case the Gemara talks about here. So Tanya and Abraisa we learned, Oma ben Azai said, Gimel Shvuah saying, there are three different scenarios of how this Shvuah, a person that swears falsely about testimony that he knows, can play out. One is Hikir ba v'loy b'moitza. So let's say it's talking about a lost item that is found in someone's property. And you have edus about this, that this lost item is there in someone else's property. So let's say you know the lost item itself, but you don't know the moitza, the property where it's in. The moitza, you know the place, the property of where it's in, but v'loy ba, you don't know, you're not maki it itself, the item itself. Or loy ba v'loy b'moitza, you're not maki either, not it or not the property that it's in. So in either of these cases, you do have some information. Even if you can't recognize exactly whose property it is, but you recognize the item. Or on the other hand, you recognize the property, but you don't recognize the item. If you have some information and then you deny this, so then it's a shvuah of edus sheker, it's a shvuah regarding an edus that you know, that you're withholding, and therefore you're going to have to bring a carbon for this. But the Gemara clarifies the last case. Loy ba v'loy b'moitza. If the person doesn't know not about the item itself, he can't identify it, and he can't identify the property either, so then kush de ishtaba. Then when he swears that I don't have any information, I can't identify it, so then he's actually swearing truth. So the Gemara says, no, in a case where he knows, he recognizes the item itself, he recognizes the property that it's in, and he still swears falsely. So that's obviously also a case where the person swore falsely about information that he has, and he would have to bring a carbon for this. Okay, those were the three cases that Ben Azai said in this Braisa. Now the Gemara explains, Lamai Hilchase, what was the relevance of this halacha that Ben Azai was really saying. So the Gemara here will explain, it's not really so much the fact that he's denying in any of these three cases, it's more about the fact that we're talking here about one individual. Usually, when we talk about a person that denies information that he has for testimony, for eidos, it's when there are two eidim. Because two Eidim, if they say Eidos together, then they could be Mechayiv someone mamin. They could resolve the whole Din Torah, and the person would have to pay. You're holding back that information. What's if it's only one Eid? One Eid is not Mechayiv mamin. So the Gemara explains like this. Ravami says, Rab Chanina, the name of Rab Chanina, Liftor, that is. That the main point that Ben Azai was saying over here is that in all of these cases, since he's only one aid, so therefore, even if he swore falsely about all of these things, even though in each one of these cases he has some information to one degree or another that's relevant to the Din Torah, but nevertheless, because he's one aid, he'll be potter from whatever he has to pay for this shvuah sheker. Why? Because he's only one aid. Shmuel Malachiyov. Shmuel says no. What Ben Azai was trying to say is, if he has any of this kind of information on any level, even though he's only 1/8, but still, if he denies that information that he has, he's going to be chayiv. And the Gemara explains, they're arguing in the argument that Tanoim already argued about. The Tanya we learned in the Braisa, mashbiya eid echad. If you have one witness swear for you that he doesn't know testimony, you want him to say testimony for you on your behalf, and he denies it, and you make him swear to me that you don't have this edus. So the potter. Bava Kama says he's potter for swearing falsely because he's only 1/8. But Reb Shimon says no, even though he's only 1/8, he will be chayav for swearing falsely about this information that he has. What's the basis of their argument? Mar Sovar Dova Gerel Momen Kamaman Domi. Reb Shimon ben Elazar holds, or Reb Elazar ben Reb Shimon rather. Reb Elazar ben Reb Shimon holds, even though this edus that he says is not going to directly be mechayiv anybody mamain, but it could cause indirectly to be mechayiv mamain. What happens when the eid echad says edus? So the other person does not have to pay automatically as a result of this edus. But if he wants to keep his money, he has to swear to deny what the eid echad is saying. It's mechayiv the other person to swear. What's if the other person does not want to swear? To make a shvuah is not a simple matter. If he does not want to swear, then he's going to have to pay. So it comes out that by this eid echad saying this edus, he may cause the other person to buckle under pressure and not want to swear and pay. So even though the words of the edus that he was holding back is not directly causing a lack of payment of money, but it could have caused it. It creates a certain pressure. So if you say it could cause that he should pay, that's enough considered to be that he's withholding information that would bring a payment of money. So then he's chayiv. The Tanna Kama, however, holds lav kamam and dami. The fact is, since it's not directly going to be mechayiv money, it could only create a pressure to pay money. So therefore, this is not like money itself, and therefore, even if you swear falsely on this information, you're going to be potter for this.